All right, here we are. Season 2, episode 10.
10.
This is a special episode because every episode's special when the boys get together.
Yeah.
That's right.
And every once in a while, a gal.
Yep.
Or a cat.
Or a cat.
You never know who's going to be on the pod.
Yeah.
No, you don't. Hey, if you are new to us or watching or listening, we encourage you to subscribe, to like, to share this if you like it. If you don't like it, share it and just say, I don't like this.
Give us a 1 star.
Is it really bad publicity, you know?
Yeah, that's what everybody says. You know, just hate us up because it generates and throws us in other people's algorithms. If you got questions that you want us to discuss, email us ncunscripted@northwood.church or comment on any of these platforms that you watch this. But today's going to be fun. We are continuing our series that has no rhyme or reason to it.
I was about to
I was
say,
like, where are you going with this?
Continue our series that is not a series at all, apart from numerical.
you're so used to preaching, you're just
That's
like,
it.
and you're walking, you're like, all right, we're continuing our...
Look at the seat pocket in front of you.
Yeah.
Joel looks a lot different.
More attractive.
Ooh.
Who do we got here?
Who is
I don't
that?
have
That's
glasses
exactly
too.
what it felt like.
Who we got here?
No, so we do have Jeffry Peters, who has been a member of our church for a long time.
06.
06?
Wow.
Wow.
Dude, that's officially a long time.
Dang.
Part of our Wiggins location since we opened.
Yeah, we visited when it first opened and actually didn't go back for a little while.
That's the warehouse.
It was unique, let's just say. But it was funny. Like we
Were there
visited around. They didn't pull them out.
Not that Sunday.
Yeah, but we visited around and just never found a home. And we would literally get up from, wake up on Sunday mornings, get ready for church, to get the kids ready, and say, we don't want to go to church. Let's just go eat.
Go to Waffle House.
Because we never found a home.
All dressed up.
Yeah, all dressed up.
That's awesome.
Yes. Then we found Northwood and just fell in love, and so that's where we've been.
Cool. Mm-hmm. So y'all went to the warehouse first?
Yes.
And then once we built the building, then y'all went to the building. Yeah.
I was the first one to get baptized in the new building.
What?
Wow. Very cool.
I didn't know that.
Yep.
Do you need a
so cool.
placard or something
I
for
know,
this?
man. It's a big deal. So whenever you went to the warehouse, was it a strange service and y'all were like, no, that's not for us? Or was it just like, dude.
Was that me or you?
That was me.
That was you?
Dude,
I thought it was Micah. I was so
Every
confused.
week my throat gurgles.
That was a...
Well, it's because I'm drinking coffee. And
Yeah.
like it's just...
So it was unique. It was different. You know, we've evolved over the years.
So was it the week that Mike, when he walked on the communion table? Were you there that week?
No.
No?
I haven't even heard of this.
Dude, me neither.
Can we hit pause on the story for just a minute so we can hear the
I
story?
was just wondering because like there was some fun services back then.
Yeah.
And one at the end of worship, I was playing guitar obviously because we go up there and then we go back down to Gulfport, and I was playing guitar and Mike came up to close out the worship moment, you know, and he got really excited. He got ramped up, and we had our communion table set up, the big wooden one that's this dude in remembrance of me, you know, and it had like a blanket on top of it. And he jumped up on it and started hyping up the crowd, man. The spirit was moving that day.
Wow.
And I was watching his feet. It was kind of like, because it's pledged, you know what I'm saying? It's slippery, so it's a little bit of moonwalking.
It had
Looks stuff going
casters on it too, didn't it?
Dude, it was
That
solid
table?
red oak.
I don't know about that. It
I
might
doubt it
have,
had casters.
but
That would have not have been good.
No.
he didn't fall. I mean, it was his younger days. I mean,
It was the
you know,
anointing, man. Kept him balanced. The service was different than what you guys grew up in.
I
so it was
came
just
from
kind of-
Methodist, and Morgan came from Baptist.
Really?
and
Methodist?
And that's why the first time we went, you know, you see hands raised and people really getting into the spirit, and it was just like, I'm not sure this is for us.
Yeah.
But Morgan's aunt goes to a church similar to that, and she just kept talking to us and like, hey, what'd you think? And we went back, and Pastor Van was preaching that day, and he was just going, it was at the end of the service, and he was just in his moment, you know, and he was walking through the crowd, and he pointed at me, says, and it was about Jesus' first miracle, turning water into wine, and he looks at me and says, we're out of wine. What are you going to do? And like, I remember that like impacting me, like,
wow.
okay, you know, like, what are you going to do? We're out of wine. Like,
Yeah.
Where's your miracle? So anyway, it was just very impactful to me.
Yeah.
So was that was the moment? It's like, I've got to buy into this thing. Was it that kind of moment for you, for your family, or was it just for you? Was it Morgan too?
It was just for me.
I mean, when you said this is our church, whatever that moment that was, were you all in at that point, or was it like a gradual emerge lane?
No, I was all in.
Yeah. So in that, you and your wife, you've got kids, like, go through the family structure a little bit for us.
So we had Braden, and we had just had Caleb. Caleb was in diapers. And now we have 4 kids total now.
Yeah. You're one of those families that it seems like you've done everything at the church, like positionally.
Absolutely.
You've carried.
I have not made coffee.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Go through the positions that you've served in or been part of. Like, just if you can remember, you and Morgan. This is going to be fun.
So I was a catcher for a long time. That was me.
Are you serious?
Yes.
I didn't even know we had that
Hey, you
team.
go back that far?
Oh, dude.
My.
Yes.
What?
When there was
Dude, don't
praying
get-
on the front, I was
Don't
the guy
get
like,
scared. Catch the people who are
Oh, yeah.
receiving it.
Okay. Hey, I know the tongues thing
I didn't-
kind of gets you worried.
Let
No
me put you
problem.
right
Come
in the mix of it.
I'll put you behind the people that are falling out.
The in-house team for that.
Oh man!
Hey, sign up for the
In-house.
team.
yeah.
Did you get a polo?
I dressed up in a suit every day because that was every
That's what you
Sunday.
did, yeah.
Yeah, that was you wanted to look presentable and
Sunday best.
I'd never
Yeah.
caught anybody. All those years,
You
never
missed them?
No,
I was scared. I know what was going on. I ain't touching that.
It's like rabies or something.
no one had never fell out. I mean, but we were there. We were just like, hawks. We were just like,
Yeah.
So nobody ever fell out, but you still like
I still did it
He
for a
was
long
available.
time. We
The
were
Lord-
available.
the
He was
Yeah.
willing.
the Lord stopped. The Lord's like, you know what? I'm not gonna do the whole fallout thing anymore.
Then we moved into an usher position. I was an usher for a long time. Me and Randy Melton, well, we were just the team.
Yeah.
We really we enjoyed it and we owned it and took it serious. And I think I ran the parking lot team for a little while. Always grabbed an umbrella whenever it was raining outside. It's just I telling my boys, grab the umbrella. Let's get wet. Let's walk these people in. Youth, worked with the youth for a long time. That was very fulfilling.
Yeah.
It was. I enjoyed that for a long time, but there's a season for that for me.
Yeah.
I haven't worked with the younger kids and coffee. I haven't done that, but I've always been on the greeting team. I'm that guy. I'm checking the flow.
Yeah.
I'm checking like what's the temperature. I still got the temperature of the thermostat out on my phone, and I'm like, if it gets cold Sunday morning, I'll turn that baby up. Yeah.
You feel people falling asleep, you turn that thing down.
Oh, and I've been the awkward guy that handles the child that's crying in the service.
Really?
Wow.
Oh yeah.
You've done that?
Oh, several times.
Do they respond well?
So
Did they respond well?
Good question.
that's one of my giftings. Is
Yeah.
It's just I can make people do things that they don't want to do, and they'll smile about it.
Yeah. Manipulation.
Yeah.
Hospitality.
That's the gifts
Comforting.
of the spirit. Manipulation.
That's the spirit of the world, my friend.
You just call it hospitality.
Yeah,
it's
no.
good, right? Yeah.
It's hospitality. Yeah. But I had a way that I could do it and not offend people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is a gifting to be able to do that, to be able to say stuff that it's going to be personal, it's going to be difficult, but then the
Yes.
person doesn't feel like you're really attacking them. Yeah.
Yeah, you have to give away a feeling.
Yeah.
You can. One of my quotes is you can do something to someone and they'll forget about it, or you can say something to someone, but the way you make them feel, they'll always remember that.
Yeah.
Have you ever made them feel bad doing that? Or are you batting 1,000?
I think I'm batting 1,000.
That's crazy. Like, yeah, that doesn't happen.
Yeah.
Solid.
But it's been to the point where you read people and you take them out in the foyer, like, let me turn this up where you can hear the service,
Yeah.
and you can take care of your child, everything, and I'll sit out there with them for a little while. Just
Yeah.
I'm just not like, you need to remove your baby now because
Yeah.
it's a distraction.
Yeah.
I've never actually been in the moment when it's happened. Like, as far as in that seat, I've always been on the other seat, like the one either on the stage watching it happen and like, oh gosh, I hope it's going well, or like in the seat, like sitting there and I know somebody's dealing with it. But we had we've had quite a few that were not happy about it, and actually it was just a few. What it's like 3 weeks ago in Gulfport, I was preaching and we talked about racism. Okay, so I'm teaching on racism, and it gets to like the most intense point. Like it's like where we say racism is the sin of partiality, and it was like building up to this moment where we talk, like segue into partiality and all this. And dude, I was like, but you know what racism really is the sin of? And right there, this baby, not a baby, a toddler starts crying, but like not just like me, like I'm talking, like cried and then took the breath.
Yeah, and it's
like it goes nuts.
Yep.
And so they're like they start walking. I couldn't keep talking. There was nothing that it was too loud. It was just like hey, I'll just give him a second. So we're waiting, and. Yeah, it's tough.
There's a technique.
Oh, good.
There's a technique I think with that too. It's like when you approach them, you want to lower yourself below them. Like
kneel.
You're
physically.
If they're
kneel.
in the chair, you want to get below them. Even when you get them in the foyer, you still want to be like below them. You don't want to feel like you're the person in authority removing them.
Yeah, it's like a gorilla. Gorillas do that. I literally just watched a small clip on like a National Geographic. This is weird, but
I like that he was talking and you were like gazing out. You're like picturing the gorilla.
Harambe's in the background right now.
What it is these people were, I don't know what they're in the jungle. They're in the jungle and like a pack of gorillas, and they're all just going by. It was like a silverback, dude. And this thing is like walking right by. And the guy told him, said lower put yourself down.
I've seen that.
Yeah, and he literally the guy, because it's a sign of dominance.
Yep.
And so so you want to actually physically lower yourself so that way it doesn't feel like you're challenging it. So,
Makes sense.
there you go. Look at you, man.
I learned it from the gorillas.
Watch that doc. No, I was going to say something about that particular story. Amber ended up knowing that that couple and that lady, and she had just got done worshiping, and we were in the back of the booth, and she saw the lady walk out. She's like, I'm going to go back there. So she went back there and spent basically the whole service talking to her, making sure she felt comfortable, and just kind of it was actually their first time at that Sunday service.
Perfect.
They had never been to Northwood. And so funny story is we actually ran into them at Walmart 3 days prior. And they said because we ran into them at Walmart, they had been thinking about going to a church. They saw Amber, they connected, and they're like, we're going to go to Northwood. And that was that Sunday. Amber was able to connect and kind of reconcile that moment. I was just thankful that Amber was there and knew that lady to be able to kind of soften that blow and kind of make sure that they were comfortable with it.
It's good when those moments happen, because even on the stage and seeing it happen, your heart goes out for them, because not just as a parent, but it's uncomfortable, and you never realize how large an auditorium is until you stand up to get your kid out.
Oh man,
it's like
It's taking forever to walk.
It's like half a mile
dude, and
wide.
everyone's looking at you. I'm like, oh my gosh, that's so much pressure.
So we have a cool story about being in the crowd and something weird happening. So 2 weeks ago, so 3 weeks ago was the baby. 2 weeks ago, oh, man, this is good. I'm preaching, and again, so I was literally at the part where I was talking about Nero, the emperor, burning Christians on the poles, like in his garden, right? I'm at that part of the sermon, and all of a sudden, this lady on the second row, her phone starts going off, and it's not like a ring; it's a song, and I couldn't hear the song, but I could tell that it was not a good song. And it's like loud all the way up, like, it's a rap song. And dude, this guy,
bottom jeans.
I wish it was that.
It's explicit.
Safe. Oh, it was bad. It was bad. And so she couldn't like get it turned off. And so she just stands up and literally starts running. She's on the second row, running down the aisle, trying to get out of the auditorium. And she never. And I was like, her name is Nancy. We laughed about it already. We text back and forth. But anyway, I was like, Miss Nancy, hit the button on the side. She was like, and it wasn't working. I said, just run, just get out, just hurry. And so she gets out, and she gets in the lobby, and this girl was out there trying to help her stop it and couldn't. So like it wasn't like just a regular app. No telling, probably downloaded some virus at some point. It's just like at that moment was like explicit music now.
Wow.
I love being in those
Amazing.
moments when it's not you. And like watching the way people's brains work and like, how do I fix this? How do I fix it? It was several years ago. There was a guy was on stage, and I think it was at the end of service, like worship was ending or something. And
It was an altar call.
that's what it was. And his cell phone was in his pocket. I think he was playing the bass or something.
Yeah.
And I think Pastor was preaching, and he Pastor's finishing the service up, and his phone goes off in his pocket. And I can't remember if there was a stall for a little bit, like nobody knows whose it is, and then he
Yes.
realizes it's his, and he's like on the outside of his pants trying to turn off, can't do it. So he just reaches in his pocket, and from what I recall, and fix it, he says he just tries to crush his phone.
Yes, 100%.
Didn't know what to do. He said, I'm just going to crush this bad boy.
He said, because it still was going off the whole time. Yeah, and I'm on the acoustic, and I look back at him, I'm just like, because he's just standing there like this. And I'm like, and finally he takes it out and turns it off. And after we were talking, he's like, I'm gonna be honest, I froze, and he said my first go-to thing was to try to break my phone. So he was trying to crush his phone.
I mean,
amazing.
If my phone started playing explicit rap in church, I think I would too. I'd be like,
Just break it.
you can't. You press everything.
Yeah.
Nah, I tell you, you got to be quick. One of your kids are sitting by you. You take their phone. You say, like,
What's wrong with
Sam,
you?"
what are you listening to? You throw somebody under the bus.
I would just put it on the ground and slide it. It just slides back about 3 rows.
Everybody's just pushing it back.
Just take it to the altar. Just throw it at the altar.
Cast a demon out of it. Where's the oil? Pour oil on this demon box.
Jordan just picks it up and tick.
Hailed.
Where's my catcher? Catch this phone, please. Jeffrey, 16 years in the making.
I was born for
Finally
this
got
moment.
it.
This is it.
We better hope that the spirit doesn't start moving like that again, because people wouldn't know what to do, and they would just start getting concussions everywhere.
Dude,
The catcher team is back.
let's shift it a little bit. So we've heard how long you've been part of the church. Did you grow up in Stone County? Like, is that home? Like, what did growing up look like for you?
I grew up in George County, not far
Okay.
from there.
George County.
Yep. Born and raised in Lucedale, Mississippi. My dad had a building supply business there since 1980. I was born in 82, so I kind of grew up in the business.
Yep.
Left and went to Mississippi Gulf Coast Community College after high school and went there for 1 year. I was a cheerleader.
Really?
I didn't know
Very
that.
nice.
I
You
was
went to Perk?
I did. I was a Perk cheerleader. Yep. Yes.
That's amazing.
Not many people say that.
You're throwing them around and stuff, though, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. I wasn't waving a
You
flag.
were in the sensations.
He wasn't on top of the pinnacle. He wasn't on the pyramid.
I was a cheerleader at Perk. Yeah.
Very
Dude,
good.
very cool.
And then went there 1 year. Went to Southern after that, and basically flunked Southern. I
Yeah.
failed.
Did you pass Perk?
I did. I passed Perk.
Okay.
And then went to Southern, and I failed. And
Why-
so-
why did
Like,
you fail?
Yeah.
So I never really wanted to go to school in the first place. I told my parents, I'm like, look, whatever money you're going to invest in school for me, they wanted to pay for my education. Whatever money you're going to invest, let me take it and I'll invest it in a business or do something. And they were like, we want you to go for at least 2 years. So I went to school for 1 year at Perk and 1 year at Southern, and met Morgan at Southern and my
Okay.
wife, and we met and basically got married right after I left Southern.
So your parents basically paid for you to meet Morgan.
There you go. That's
Yeah.
right.
That's what they
That
did.
was a great ROI.
But it was that's exactly right. Yeah, it was really good. But we got married, went to Lucedale, and lived in an apartment in Lucedale. Worked at my dad's store just for a little while, and I was just like, Dad, I want to do my own thing. I've got to, I want to do what you're doing, but I don't want to run this.
And was that a Jack's number one?
Jack's number one.
Was Jack's number one?
Yeah. So one of our salesmen said, hey, there is a need for a building supply hardware store in Wiggins. And we jumped on it, and we found there was a building supply hardware store kind of going out of business, and we looked at it, and funny enough, it was where
Wow.
Northwood, the warehouse.
Really?
Yes. It was it was a lumber building
Yeah,
supply
because
business.
it was a
yeah,
lumber
yeah,
yard. It was
yeah.
lumber.
Yeah,
lumber
and we
supply.
looked at purchasing it, but just didn't
Wow.
feel right about it.
Yeah.
Shortly after that, it was Northwood.
That's crazy.
Yeah, but we found some property and built our own thing, and that's where Jack's is today. We just
Oh, so
celebrated,
y'all built that?
Yes.
Y'all built it. Okay, I didn't know that.
and so we just celebrated 20 years.
So you mentioned like when you were either graduating from high school or like about that spot, you said, I want to do my own thing. Like, did you always know that you wanted to own a business? Was that kind of something always in you?
Yeah, I always knew I wanted to work my way up wherever I was. Whenever Morgan and I, she got pregnant in college, and we got married immediately after that. And I remember telling her, I said, look, I don't know what I'm going to do, whether it be a janitor or flip hamburgers, but I'm going to be the best one there. And I had drive. And thankfully, my parents helped me out. I didn't have enough assets to build a building supply business, and they signed the dotted line with me. But that was my little baby in Wiggins. Morgan and I took it and ran with it. I was 21. She was 18. And
You opened a business at 21 and 18.
yes.
Wow, very cool.
First year of marriage, we got married. We bought a house, bought our first car together, and had a kid together. Very first year.
Jeez.
And opened a business together. Yeah. And it's been great ever since. I mean, it hadn't been great. There's always the ups and downs, but that was what I was going to do. And I was going to, whatever it took to be successful, that's what I was going to do.
So
Had to grow up fast.
Yes.
yeah. Oh yeah, dude. 21 years old. Did you experience immediate success at Jack's, or was it like slow growth, or what was that like?
Yeah, it was slow growth, but there was always money in the bank to pay the bills.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been from where we started to where we are now. Yeah, it's pretty incredible. It's really incredible.
Okay, so let's fast forward. You just said to where we are now, and then we might rewind back in the story.
Sure.
So you're 20 years old with Jack's, and you've got other businesses too.
Yes.
What does that look like, and why did you keep opening more business? Is it the same drive that you had at 18 or 21 that you're like, man, I got to feed this thing, or what is it?
So my dad retired end of 2019. So Morgan and I purchased the Loosedale location. So that gave us 2 building supply hardware stores. So 2020, which was crazy, the pandemic hit, and I was like, oh my gosh, are we going to be able to pay our bills? And then all of a sudden, everybody's like, hey, I'm at the house. Let me fix the fence.
Yeah.
Let me build a deck. And it wound up being a blessing to our business.
Yeah.
And so we have had the 2 building supply businesses, and I kind of, in that process, I put more people in place to handle things that I usually handle. And I had better managers, and they took care of a lot of the day-to-day things that I did not have to take care of. And I'm like, you know what? I can open something else.
Yeah.
And I read a little book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad.
Yeah. Robert Kiyosaki.
He is awesome. That book kind of changed my thinking.
Yep.
And I started investing in things that created assets.
Yeah.
And I feel like my gifting is opening businesses. You know, he opens several, he does rentals and does other things. But I feel like I can open a business and it work. And I gain an asset at the end of the day. So we started opening other businesses.
So how many? You've got 2 Jack's.
So we got 2 Jacks, and then we opened a RV and boat supply. Boat and RV storage. Then we opened a self-storage, mini storage, climate control, and then we opened a barbershop, Brick Street Social. I missed Plant and Patio.
So tell us about that. That was during the pandemic. You guys started selling flowers out of Jack's, right?
Yeah. So during the pandemic, Morgan and I were like, hey, we want to sell some plants. Let's just try it. And so we bought a load of plants, and Morgan and I would sell them on the little overhang at Jack's, and every plant we bought, we would sell. And what was so cool is during the pandemic, everybody was just on edge. And when people come in the hardware store, they're kind of angry. They're like, I got to fix the dishwasher, or I got to fix the washing machine. When people come to buy plants, they're happy. And it brought so much joy to us to sell a plant to someone because they would smile.
Yeah.
And they were happy to spend that money or to even come in and just buy a plant. And Morgan and I soon realized we got to open a garden center. So there was right across the road from Jack's was an old house that had been there 110 years.
Wow.
And we would like to have made it work, but we couldn't. It just wasn't the size we needed. So we tore it down, and we built where Plant Patio is now. And we just wanted to put everything fun and cool that we enjoy into a store, and the draw is the plants, and that is a fun store.
Yeah.
It's a cool feeling when you get, when you walk in the door. We try to create a cool culture and a cool vibe, and it's awesome.
So was that started because you just said that about plants at your store, like you literally wanted to make people happy? I mean, it's obviously it's an asset for you, but was it because it's going to do something to other people?
I felt like it was something that Wiggins needed. We needed a garden center, but we wanted to create something. We wanted to create a destination is what we wanted. And that's what it has become, a destination store where people want to go. We have something for everyone, kids, men, women. We want families to be able to come up there and bring the whole family and spend an hour.
So why did you, because I know you've got connections in other places in larger communities, why did you do that in Wiggins and not go to a place that already has the culture?
I finally realized that cool communities are because of a cool developer.
Yeah.
Laurel was declining,
Yeah.
and what changed it?
Napier's.
2 people. That's it. Waco, Texas. It's a bigger city, but who changed it? It's a destination now.
Yeah.
I'm not saying we're Chip and Joanna Gaines, but we're just trying to change our community to make it a cool place to live. And Brent said this a long time ago, you can change where you live or change where you live.
Yeah.
And that's so true. And that's what we're trying to change, where we live to a cool place. And we just opened a restaurant. It's become part of the cool vibe of, hey, you can come up from the coast or Hattiesburg or Mobile or Louisiana, come over for the day and you can come to Sleepy Bear, have a great breakfast, go to Plant and Patio, enjoy yourself, and people can make a day out of Wiggins.
Change where you live. For some people, it's like either they're running away from something, or they are running like to something. And when you're running away from something, it's bad, And so many people try to just jet. They just just leave. Like, oh, things are tense, just leave. And it's like, well, you go wherever you go, you're going to unpack all the same stuff. Typically.
So true.
And so you change your environment. If you don't change what's going on inside, it doesn't really matter long term. There's different scenarios where maybe it does, but a lot of times, it's just like I'm just running. But if you work where you're at and make where you're at better, I think about that with years ago. We were going through some stuff, and I knew with my skill set and how long I've been working in church and stuff like that, like I knew I could get a job at another church, a bigger church, cooler area, all that kind of stuff. And I was talking to Nadine about it, and I mean, this has been a long time ago now, but in it I said, I know I could go here, here, here. I know that I could. I've got friends, and I could get on somewhere. I said, but who's not going to be there? And I started naming all of our friends and all the people that we love. And I was like, they're not going to be there. And I was like, I don't really, like, which one outweighs the other? Really cool restaurant or really cool stuff, or the people that I literally have done life with? Yeah. And so instead of just going where the money is or going where the opportunity is, it's like, no, let's bring the opportunities here and for the people that, that are here, and make it a better place. It's just that's such a cool, honorable heart that,
Why do you think more people don't think like that? Or maybe they do and I just don't know, but it seems like the growing trend in both of those types of stories is, I'm going to go where it's already cool.
I think it's just
hard work.
Convenience. I was going to say, yeah.
Yeah.
It's hard to build a business in a community that might not have that culture yet, or a church that doesn't. Maybe there's some nuances that we want to change in the church, and it's hard work because it takes developing leaders, it takes developing people, and getting people accustomed to a new thing that maybe they're not used to, and it's just easy to move away.
Most Americans are consumers.
Yeah.
And you have to be a creator.
Yeah.
There's creators and consumers, and I want to be a creator.
Yeah, it's a big delineation.
Do you create things for consumers? Is that
Absolutely.
what you're... Okay. So like in your mindset, that's almost I'm calling such a big word, but do you feel like this is what I'm born to do, is create businesses where people can come experience, whatever.
Yes, that's the heart, and I feel like my gifting is to manage people.
Yeah.
Morgan and I are good at creating the environments, the atmospheres, the feelings, the smell when you walk in, the look, and we're good at that, and we want to find the right people to put in place for that, and we just manage the people, and we create the environments, and they manage. That makes sense.
So here's a question, and it's does faith play a part in this at all, or are those two things separate for you?
No, absolutely. Everything that I have is God's. That every business that I have, I'm just the guy that gets to run it. Everything from 2007, I learned that the hard way because we had a downturn. We were really struggling, and I was at the point to where, am I going to stay open or am I going to close? Like it was that.
Wow.
We were there, and I had a conversation with Pastor Mike, and he's like, if this is God's and you say it is, then you need to ask him, all right, God, am I going to get a paycheck this week or am I not? And at that point, I'd always said like, oh, this is God's business. But at that point, I was able to realize this is his. And I asked him, I would ask him like, God, do I get a paycheck this week? And that takes a lot of the pressure off of me and puts more pressure on him.
So that mindset shift, it changed the way that you approached all the small decisions and the big ones.
That's right.
Like you became more of a steward of what God was giving you rather than the owner of what you had made. The whole it's like, no, this is like people can do that in their own personal finances and their own personal life. It's like if you really believe that everything you have is from God, your talents, your time, your talents, your treasures, like anything like that, your kids, anything. It's I'm stewarding what God has given me that He's entrusted to me, and it affects. You don't just live life aimlessly or selfishly. There's a higher standard. So anyway, so it changed the way that you would approach
absolutely
everything,
yeah.
people and everything.
Even I mean today, not today, but even recently, I've had deep conversations with employees. Like they have this going on, and while I'm listening to the employee, I'm like, all right, God, I'm listening. How do I handle this?
Yeah.
And that's how I approach everything. Because a lot of times people just want you to listen. You don't have to say anything, but sometimes that's a good ministry time, and it's not like I'm going to pray with them immediately, but I feel like God gives me the right words to say.
I want to ask, was there ever a time that God said no to a paycheck?
Nope.
Okay.
I got paid.
Were there ever times that you were literally like, this ain't going to work? Like, were some of those stories, you said 06?
Closer to 2008 and 2000 through 2010. And it was a big decline. That was when the recession happened.
Recession.
Yeah. We got through Hurricane Katrina, which was like, wow, all this business.
Hardware, yeah.
And then you change your budgets to that, and you can't change your budgets to that. And then all of a sudden it just went, and so, but we survived.
So with businesses, one of the and we were talking a second ago about why some people would have that creator mindset rather than the consumer mindset, or why they won't, why they just don't go for it. And the word came to mind, risk. So there's a risk and reward to doing, opening a business or really doing anything in life. But when I was thinking about risk, I was thinking about calculated risk. Anytime that you guys have wanted to go to the next, open another business or I mean, even take on new products that aren't maybe in the area, how do you guys calculate risk for financially with your whole like your portfolio, but also calculate risk for your own marriage and your own family? Like, how do you plant and patio? Here we are. It's a Tuesday night. We're having dinner, sitting there, and we're like, man, we've been a lot of plants. We've been selling plants. We like that. But there's that moment, but then there's the math and there's the calculation of all that. What did that look like for you guys? And because I'm also, it's a podcast, so there's young people watching who one day they're looking at where you're at and they're like, dude, that would be amazing to do. But it's those calculatable risks, I guess, that I think that's part of this whole thing too, of like, you got to know when to go and you got to know when to sit. So I don't know What would you say to that?
Well, each business that we have done, there's a due diligence that you have to do, and it's just like working a real estate deal. The numbers, you got to figure out like how many employees you're going to have, what that budget's going to look like monthly, and then you have all your overhead costs, period. The numbers have just got to work, and you got to know what your margins are going to be, and is it going to be profitable? It's a system, you got to do it several times. Robert Kiyosaki will say, do 100 deals a day. Mm-hmm. And I know right now what $1 million loan is monthly.
Yeah.
And so I've already got that in my head, and I realized that, okay, well, I got to have $8,500 a month just to
Cash flowing.
Right, to make that work. And you're always doing deals and figuring out deals and just trying to make it work in your head. It's a due diligence thing.
Yeah.
Do you have the ideas in your head sitting there waiting for the cash, or do you have the cash waiting for the idea?
Cash waiting for the idea.
Okay.
Is that just now? Because like
Great
back
question,
in the
yeah.
day,
So talking about Briggs, no, that's just now.
yeah,
Now.
back in the day, it was like if we had the money, we would do this, and now it's we have the money, so
What's the right
Yeah.
business? What's the right thing?
yeah,
Brick Street Social, Morgan and I saw the space that came available.
Yeah.
And we knew it had so much character. We're like, we got to buy that. We don't know what we're going to put there, but we got to buy that.
Yeah.
It was at the right price. So we purchased it. And in the process of like getting the loan processed and all that, my CP or my CFO, that was been the best thing we've ever done was get a CFO. He's like, have you ever thought about doing a barbershop? And I was like, I haven't. And he said, it's just a cool idea. Been to Sports Clips, that cool vibe, but you could do it like you and Morgan do it.
yeah,
And I was like, let me think about that. Well, there happened to be a salon/barbershop kind of going out of business, and there were 2 barbers in there that didn't have a place to go. Mm-hmm. And so I partnered. It's like it's God's timing, and so I met with the 2 barbers, and they're like, yes, this is what we want to do. And so we opened Brick Street Social.
What would you say to the 21-year-old Jeffrey right now? Like, knowing what you know now, what would you say to encourage the 21-year-old Jeffrey?
I would say never stop learning, because you get content. I was content with Jack's for a long time.
Yeah.
Very content. Like, yeah, let me do a takeoff for a house. Yeah, let me price these studs. Let me price these 2x4s. And you get content where you are. And even with social media, you fill your brain full of crap because you're just like thumbing through. If you look at my social media, I'm following like financial institutions and people that motivate. Robert Kiyosaki. Mm-hmm. I'm following things that kind of empower you, and I always want to learn. I want to learn something new. The restaurant industry, I had no clue what the restaurant industry. I wanted to learn it, and I did, and we're doing it. Always educate yourself.
We had Dr. Jim Davis on a few weeks ago. He's an older man in our church. He's 83, I think now, something like that, and he sat right here, and I mean, he's just a funny guy, He's got his hat on, his little spectacles, and he'll just sit here and then he'll just like drop truth bombs on you. Yeah. We were hanging out a few weeks ago, and I was talking to him. I just go to his house and just sit there and for 3 hours, and we'll just talk and just a wealth of knowledge. But he said. He was talking about how his schedule every day, and he kind of shared some of it on our podcast. And he's like, he basically gets up at 5:53. It's so specific, like an actual time. And I asked him
Had
why.
a salt break.
Yeah, you heard that?
Yeah,
a salt break. And one time I asked him, said, why do you get up at like a certain time, like 6? Why not 6:30? I don't know. He's like, self-discipline. I was like, oh gosh, I just wake. Anyway, and
Next morning you woke up 5:53.
I tried.
I'm dead the rest of the day.
Yeah, but he said, he talked about how much he learns every day, how much he's reading and stuff like that. And I was telling him, I said, for me, I'll go through seasons, 2-3 months where I'm like, I'm learning, and then I get fatigued. And it's like, I want to take a break from like just input. And he leaned forward. He said, no, don't do that. He said, keep learning.
Yeah.
keep growing, keep. And so anyway, whenever you said that, I was I mean, it's there. So whenever you're working out, like physically working out, you know, you can hit a wall. It's fatigue. You know, you get physically tired. But it's like if you're in the middle of a set and you're starting to burn, and it's like that's when you're actually taking ground.
Yeah.
You know, so it's that you always say that the comfort zone.
Yeah.
You know, you never grow in your comfort zone.
Yeah.
You know, and it's all that same mindset of keep learning, keep growing. And I mean, that challenges me, you know, because you want to take the foot off the gas sometimes and just have fun.
Just chill for a second.
You know, but and that's good for vacations and that's good for the weekend or whatever. But you know, to make that part of your lifestyle, just to always be with the foot off the gas it's not healthy.
Yeah. So with you, because you've got so many businesses, your family's busy, you got 4 kids and involved in a lot of different things. We've asked this question to other people, but I'm curious. You're still very involved in church. You're still in the catcher team. Like,
Yeah.
It's kind of a dormant team right now.
yeah.
I'm always watching though.
How do you do it all, or do you? Like,
Yeah. Well, great people around me, and you empower the people around you. My job now is to, Morgan gets on to me because I say touch people. I don't like
Sounds like
physically touch people, but my goal is to go to all the businesses or go to, you know, several during the day and just to touch the people. And and when I mean touch, it's not like, hey, how are you? It's, how are your kids? Like, and you remember their names. And it's those little things. And like, how's it going here? Like, are you still good? You know, that it's deeper than just, hey, how are you? Good to see you. Thank you for working. You know, so there's an investment in people, and that's how I achieve. And people just are a part of what we're doing. They love what we're doing. They see it, and they want to help us succeed. I love that the restaurant, I have about 3 people that are working there, and I'll walk the floor, and they're like, hey, is that the owner? I'm like, no, actually, I'm the owner. And they're like, oh, okay, cool. Oh, this place is awesome. Well, that is, for a business owner, that's huge. Because you have employees that are taking ownership that look like the owner, but they're not.
Yeah.
And that's because you know them, you treat them like they're not just employees. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. You know, so many companies or corporations are going to say, oh, it's family. It's family. Truly is family at Jack's. It is a Jack's family, and we truly care and love people.
I'd assume your employee retention's fairly high.
It is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you when you're hiring somebody, are you evaluating them? Do you feel like you're hiring the right people, or do you feel like you're hiring people that then you train and they become the right people?
Great question.
Does it make sense?
Yeah. I feel like God selects the people that he wants to work at his business.
Yeah.
There's so many people, if they're not meant to be there, they'll just go away.
Yeah.
I haven't fired anyone in probably 12 years.
Wow.
People just fade. If they're not a part of the culture, they realize it and they leave. I've had conversations recently just at the restaurant with one of the ladies, and she's like, I'm scared, like, this girl's making me look bad because it makes me look like she's telling me something, but I'm cooking this, and anyway, I just don't want to get fired because of this. And I'm like, you're not going to get fired.
Yeah.
This is a process we're going to work out together. She's not going to get fired either. And ultimately, I want to see all of our employees get saved, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, what you just described is fear versus love. So, like,
Yeah.
this one thing we've talked about a lot is no telling, like, that person's background and how they were raised up. But if it's like, I just don't want to get fired, I don't want to get fired, it actually, that's showing something that's a lot deeper, which is a fear of rejection. And to see it from that angle rather than just, I don't know, numbers and whatever, but actually seeing the person and what's going on deeper. Oh, I see why they're saying that. You treat them different. But you're hitting on something we're talking about business and you're talking about people. I think so many people, whenever they're thinking about businesses or whatever in life, a lot of young people too, they actually completely miss that no matter what industry you're in, if you don't have a heart for people, eventually it's like whatever you try to lead is going to fail. If it's about if pastoring's the same way. I've just been around some guys who it's like they have plans for people. Like they have plans for those people and what they want them to do, what they want to. They have expectations on people before they even walk through the door, and it's like that's not like you're not the one that's going to form their heart.
Yeah.
Jesus does that.
Yeah.
Like you're a middleman. You're a support. You're a servant. Like you're literally when they call, you pick up the phone because you care for them.
Yeah, you don't even know what they're walking into with.
Yeah.
You know, you don't even know their background yet of who they are and what even their capabilities are, you know.
And you have to, it's like, if you're not, no matter what business you're in, you're always in the people business. You know, unless you're, I guess, maybe potentially just a, I don't know, a computer programmer that sits in the basement and, you know, but if you're doing anything, especially if you're leading a business, you're going to have to deal with people and you're going to have to deal with them well. And it could make or break.
My mindset so many times is, what would Jesus do in this situation? And how would Jesus handle this? When you get past, it's taken me a long time to figure this out, but people will fail you. Every single person will fail you. The only one that will not fail you is God. I mean, that's just, we're born sinners. Yeah. So even my best guy, he's going to fail me. And you have to understand that and not let that hurt you. And you just have to get past that failure. Because
it's a family. Typically the people that you're close with are going to fail you. How do you not just position yourself for that, but how do you keep loving in the midst of the failure? Is it literally as simple as what would Jesus do, or how does that practically play out?
Yeah, it's as simple as it is. I got to be Jesus in this situation. That's his heart, and that's what he would do. And so you're going to get walked on, and people will fail you, but you have to understand that's going to happen.
I think one of the examples of that, I know years ago we talked about a situation that, you know, and it's a hardware business. You know, I'm sure this happens a lot. But the scenario basically is that somebody owes you money. You know, and it comes down to like, how far am I going to go as the owner of this business to track down or to get the money from that person? You know, essentially. Yeah. I mean, if you do anything that dealing with tens of thousands of dollars or more. With people, at some point, you know, you get the contractor didn't get paid by the customer, and so now that he passes on that debt pretty much to the person that's the supplier. You know, all those kind of scenarios. But I remember you saying something like, "I just let it go." And there's a lot of business owners who their mindset is, "I will take you to the cleaners. Like like you ain't gonna do you taking." And although it might be true, you're taking food off my kid's table, you know what I'm saying? And although that might be true, and although you have to use wisdom, because if you do that with everybody, then of course you're not going to have a business.
Correct.
But that wisdom to know this is not a hill to die on. This is not a person to, you know, basically take out, you know, and mar their name and just really do that. It's those little, I just see there's so much value in those little moments, those little decisions, and the heart behind it to say, this ain't worth it in the long haul. It's going to break a relationship. It's going to bust up whatever.
Or it's going to break you.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Have you ever had people grow up in your businesses that say, I want to do my own now? Have there been Jeffries that have grown up inside of your business, like what you did with your dad, and went and did their own thing? Was it competitive? If it's happened, was it competitive, or like anything like that?
Hasn't happened yet.
Yeah.
No. I'll talk about Caleb Minnis, though. Caleb Minnis used to work for me. He was a little punk kid. That's when he started.
His cargo shorts. I was looking at a picture the other day.
Walk around sweeping the floor with like earbuds in. I'm like, dude, take your earbuds out. Come on. Like, pay attention. But it's funny because Caleb, when he turned 18, he just made a switch. Like something flipped. And he says, I'm not going to be a punk kid the rest of my life. And he wasn't a punk. He was a good kid.
Yeah.
But he would do more than what he was told. He wouldn't just like sweep the floor and like, all right, what's next? He took initiative and started working, and I could see a change in him. Well, about 2 years after that, 2 or 3 years, I had a big business guy come up and said, hey, you had a guy working here, a redheaded guy. He just really worked hard in the yard and took initiative, and we have a position we want, like, that we need filled. And I mean, we're talking like $60K or more, starting.
Yeah.
And I'm like, he's doing his own thing. He's got Alliston's right now, And so it's one of those mindsets like, I got to grow up and I've got to take initiative and take ownership. And I saw it in Caleb, and it was really cool.
A lot of times, so for us, we're in the church world, and it was me and Joel. We were talking a few weeks ago about just raising up, worship leaders or whatever it was, and I started talking about how whenever I was 15, I was 15. My sister, she went to college, and so she was the youth worship leader at the time. And so I was just, I was playing guitar and singing behind her, whatever. And she left, and it was like, there was no like official transfer of like, okay, now Jordan, like youth pastors sit down with you, and okay, now you're going to be the youth worship leader, and you're going to lead the team. So let's talk about the culture of the team. Let's, it was just like Rebecca's leaving, so Jordan, I guess you want to. It's like, okay, what do I need to do? Well, I don't know. You've been on the team for a long. Just go do it. I mean, that's some people think that there's been like this amazing training track for many years, and it's like, no, you'd be surprised. It's just kind of like, do you have it or not? Yeah. If you have it, you'll do it. If you don't, you won't. And that self initiative you talked about earlier, it was like, I was 15, and we had worship. I mean, we had chapel plus youth. And then Sunday prayer, all that kind
Wiggins.
of stuff, and going to Wiggins.
Wednesday nights. Yeah.
I mean, we were doing all that, and some of my other buddies too. We were all like 15, 16 years old. Nobody had to call us and remind us. Nobody had to text us and hey, and we just did it. We did it with excellence to the ability that we could at 15. And we loved it. And now it's 23 years later, and now I look at all of those guys who were doing that at that time and involved in youth and all that. There was an innate leadership quality, an innate self-initiative that was just there. And there was an opportunity that was just kind of also given, and those two things connect, and then there's growth. And, because I think a lot, it's like our leaders are the creatives, are the developers rather than the doers. Are those people, are they born or are they created? Are they born or are they fashioned? And I believe that everybody has more potential than where they're currently at. I think you could look at that in anything, man. Everybody's got, like, I've got way more potential than where I'm at right now. I really believe that there's an innate potential in everybody, but there's some sort of crossover when it comes to the self-initiative and the character to actually pursue that and go for that, And it's just funny whenever you look back, you talk about a Caleb, it's like there was something there. That guy, whoever, he saw that thing. He was looking for that thing. But then that was in Caleb, and so that's why he's doing what he's doing now, leading a business and growing and moving forward. So that's cool.
Okay. How about with your kids? Because I know a couple of your kids have very similar passions like you.
Yes.
As a dad, not as an employer, as a dad, how do you speak to it, identify it, feed it, or do you let them blaze their own trail? Like, what's that look like for you?
I always, my younger years, I didn't always share with my kids like finances. I didn't want them to know what I made. I didn't want them to. They didn't need to know about the grocery bill. Yeah. And then it got to a point to where, why am I hiding this from my kids if I want them to be like us or be like me or be an entrepreneur? So we're an open book with our kids now. Yeah. Whenever we donate, whenever we, I'll tell them what we did in a year. I'll tell them what I get paid. Yeah. That way, there's no reason to hide those things from your kids because they need to know. If you want them to launch, they need to know that they can go to college for 4 years and not go get paid $40,000 a year, and that's a good thing.
Right.
It's not like you went to college for 4 years. You need to get something 60 plus. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I saw a TikTok today of a girl. She just got her first 9 to 5. She just came out of college, and she videoed herself, did like a video talking, and she was crying. She's like, a 9 to 5. She's like, this takes forever. She's like, and I have to leave at like 7:30 or 8 in the morning to get there, and then I don't get home till 5:30 or 6 o'clock. She's like, I have no time for anything. She's like, I just want to eat and go to bed. Like, this is horrible. And a lot of people are like, Yeah, babe, that's
is
just that's what your parents probably did for 30 years, and
Didn't tell you.
there's a disconnect
tell you.
because exactly. That's my point. Yeah, is they didn't tell you.
Yeah.
You weren't privy to that information and the difficulties. You know.
Yeah, I just did a kind of a due diligence on I looked at buying some apartments, and I made the kids do the due diligence.
Very cool.
Wow.
I sat them down on the table and said, "All right, do it. Here's your cost. Here's your
Yep.
monthly cost. Here's what overhead's going to be. What power.
Yep.
This is what you're going to get for rent."
Yeah.
And made them all. Well, I didn't make Allie do it. She's 9, but I made my 13-year-old do it
Yeah.
That's awesome.
That's great, man.
separately.
Yeah.
I got to grade their work.
Really,
That's great, man.
that's so cool.
I just want to
That's
teach them.
amazing.
They need to know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Caleb's already got a bank loan. He's 18 years old. He got it at 17. You got to start your kid's credit soon. And so that's what it is. It's to build his credit. But
Yeah.
Braden has his own dumpster business. He's got a photography
Yeah,
business.
Delta Dumpsters.
Delta Dumpsters, yeah, doing really well. But he went to the bank on his own, met with the banker and said, "Hey, I want to do this. I want to get a truck. I want to get a trailer." And that's what he did. And that's all him.
I see so many times that kids, if their parents are stable, functional, that a lot of times the kids grow up and not all the time, but a lot of the time have the same almost like gifting or passion or direction in life, and I think that's a good thing. I think about for your kids, they're growing up seeing entrepreneurialism and like just sitting down around the table and doing something like that.
Yeah.
That's shaping their mindset and awakening something in them that if you weren't doing those things, it would be dormant potentially, know? And so it leads them in a direction. That's what happened in my life, with church. Yeah. And for me, it was more music than it was teaching. I don't know. I still don't know how that became a thing. But anyway, but it was just part of our life. And my parents didn't talk negatively about it. It was just, this is what we do. And it becomes part of your life, and your mind is, they are learning things at 13, like you just said, that people go to college to learn.
Yes.
But they're learning it now. And that's why the degree on the wall doesn't mean as much, because it's like, I think so many times people limit their potential to whether they have a degree in it or not. And it's really sad, Well, they're taught that. It's America. We're taught that if you don't have, it's like, hey, I'm doing this. Where did you go to school for that? It's like, I didn't. Like, oh,
Yeah.
it's like, did you know that we have the capacity to learn things and not go to a hypercritical or whatever type of college to learn it?
$100,000 in debt.
I just wanted to mention, I think one of the keys to my success too is I do get up early and I go to the gym, but on my way to the gym, I have a 15-minute window where I listen to the 1 Year Bible. I just listen to it in my truck. Proverbs, any successful businessman, I think, has to listen to Proverbs. Mm-hmm. There is so much wisdom in Proverbs. And I like the 1 Year Bible reading because it's only 2. Like, it just gives you a little snippet. And I will hear it, and then I'll read it, and I'll read it and read it. And then I'll get out and go to the gym. But there is so much wisdom in Proverbs that I have used in my life. Things that I go through at Jack's. Had like theft. I dealt with theft. Go figure. The next day, like, did I do the right thing? I called this guy out. I feel horrible. I'll see it in Proverbs. It says something about the thief, or it's there. The wisdom is there for you. You just have to read it and take it.
That's cool. Does Proverbs say something like cutting his hand off if he's a thief?
No, I haven't got to the
Quran.
law.
I didn't do the right thing.
That's the Quran.
Two fun stories about the same son, Trace. We were at the fall retreat a couple weeks ago, and Trace has now become the creator of chaos and pranking. No, it's all good, but he taught all the city boys how to get the chickens and how to get them out and to place them in girls' rooms. So after training and creating a good culture where people feel like family, they created a mass prank executed at the same time where they actually bypassed the chickens this time and grabbed turkeys.
Dang.
And there were, I think, 3 turkeys in 3 rooms that defecated in rooms and did
Oh my
Oh,
God.
dang.
yeah.
Didn't
And
know that.
but I've got a picture of my son holding a turkey with a giant smile on his face, and that would be courtesy of your son. So
wow.
thank you.
So proud of Trace.
Yeah,
Shout out to Trace.
he's incredible.
Trace is awesome, man.
The other story about Trace, and it actually goes back to what you were just talking about, the girl on TikTok about 9 to 5. Well, we're in this giant group chat with all 4 of our locations, but a bunch of teenage dudes and a few of the leaders in there. And somebody was complaining about they were staying late at work. And it was like 5 o'clock. That's what it was. And so they were whining in the text. And literally, Trace said, "Huh, sounds like a normal day to me." And people just liking it up.
We went
He's
to remember the time we went to your house? Like, this is like 15 years ago, I think. Whenever we went, and it was like, I don't know, probably 8 of us.
Yeah.
And we went into your truck, and we all had
Yes.
like guns. And we shot all of like the random rodents that were out there.
Yeah.
We shot like armadillos
Full
and
Wiggins
possums.
experience.
Oh.
Yeah, with like a 270.
Oh,
Yeah.
dang, that is
Oh, yeah.
overkill.
It was.
We had shotguns. We were like, I remember an armadillo getting shot and just getting split in half. Just like,
It was beautiful.
and one possum, its butt was hanging off, and it was like
Crawling.
literally crawling, and we rolled up right next to it after it was crawling, and just went. He shot that. It was great.
I think that night I almost shot Wayne Scarborough's horse.
I think you did.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Oh my
Dude, I had to
gosh.
square it up like, what is this? Look at this
It's a
raccoon.
It's a horse.
I got one.
Jeff was like, no.
I think we were looking for hogs.
Yeah, that sounds about
That
right.
was
Yeah.
the biggest hog I ever seen.